Welcome back to Texas Platinum, the last real water cooler talk shows on YouTube. It is myself, Trevor, joined by Matt Myers tonight. Matt Madrid will be out for this episode, but should be back in the coming weeks. Texas just lost to TCU on a national stage, and there were aspects of the game that fans could be proud of, and then there were aspects of the games that we should be incredibly embarrassed by. Very, very much a tale of two cities in terms of the offense and defense, but we're going to review that game, which was the TCU game. And then, of course, this week, Texas goes back on the road to Lawrence, Kansas to take on a Kansas team that has kind of dipped down ever since, the injuring of their starting quarterback Daniels, but still a dangerous team potentially, and Texas needs to win out these next few looking ahead in order to have a shot. Not really full control of their destiny, but a potential shot at the Big 12 is still on the table. So these are important games as the season comes to a close. But we'll recap TCU first and then get into Kansas. But before we do that, as always, please like, comment, subscribe, especially if you're new here. Welcome. We're trying to continue to grow the channel. Seems to be a little bit harder this season. Views have kind of stayed pretty stagnant in terms of what we typically get. But so if you are watching and feel compelled to share, please do. It would be great. Maybe you should have shared a little earlier in the season, because right now, I don't know if people want to see Texas football content as much, but if we win a few games to get into the Big 12 title, I'm sure people are going to be clamoring for this type of content. So please do share if you care. So Myers, let me hand it over to you. Initial thoughts of the TCU game. So much to unpack, and this honestly will probably be most of the episode.
Right. And I would just say it was very fitting, on brand for Texas football over the last 13 years to have the biggest home game in quite a while, a top 5 team in town, the biggest recruiting weekend that I can remember in terms of having all these key recruits on campus.
Probably ever, honestly, in one
Yeah,
night.
it was stacked. It was a stacked group, and college game day in town, and TCU, a good team, a very veteran team, but that's not Georgia. It's not Ohio State. They were good, well coached, had a great game plan. They have playmakers, but that team is beatable. I mean, they barely win every game, it seems like. And of course, Sark and the offense go out and lay a big fat egg on national TV. And it's such a golden opportunity with OU and A&M down, and we just seem to trip on ourselves. And it's more of the same. We can't get over the hump. And before I talk on the game, I want to talk more big picture, because I keep seeing like a faction of the Texas Twitterverse being like, we were 5-7 last year. It's only year 2. Calm down. Um, well, if you want to use 5-7 as the litmus test for Texas football, the measuring stick, I believe that 5-7 is like our worst record ever. That last year and then Charlie's were like the worst records we've ever had. So if that wants to be like our
The
measuring stick,
new
then
standard.
yeah, if that's the standard of Texas football, then uh, well then yeah, I guess we have improved a little bit by a game, but um. It's just the way we lose these games is so infuriating, because I guess TCU was kind of the first game all year where it felt like they were better than us. We couldn't really get a lead. We were down at halftime, was that the first time we've been down at halftime all season, I want to say.
Bama,
So
maybe?
I think it was 10-10, but still, like, yeah, maybe Bama. But it was just so infuriating. I don't know what happened to our offensive line. They could not generate a run block to save their life.
They got
Uh,
dominated.
They did against a very pedestrian TCU defense. Like, they're veterans, but they are stats wise, they're middle of the pack in the Big 12. They give up like 30-ish a game almost. Um, and also we wouldn't run behind Kelvin Banks, which made me mad. Sark's play calling was definitely not one of his best games. But it's hard to put it all on Sark, because I mean the players themselves, Quinn Ewers, Xavier Worthy, did not probably had their worst games at Texas so far. Xavier Worthy, let's go to him for a second, all right? And Trevor, I'm just gonna rip into a couple players
Go ahead.
for a few minutes. Xavier Worthy, he needs to really just take a step back from his hype around him as a freshman because he was great as a freshman, but he needs to learn how to attack a ball downfield and use his hands and come off his routes and help a quarterback out. I know Quinn is just throwing, just throwing some ugly deep balls sometimes, but a lot of those are at least playable for the receiver. And if it's not perfect for Xavier Worthy, he just gives up. He just gives up on the route. It has to be perfectly in his lap, and then even then, he'll drop half the passes this year. So
Yeah.
it's been a really disappointing season for Xavier Worthy. I know he has it in him to bounce back because he's really talented, and I know he works hard. He runs great routes, and I think he will bounce back. But man, it's been a really disappointing sophomore slump for him. And yeah, so hopefully him and Quinn get that chemistry down because that's really what's killed our offense. I mean, it seems like we're so unpolished all the time, mainly because Quinn loves throwing the deep ball. I don't know if that's Sark's decision or not, and it's only to Xavier Worthy. It's never to Whittington, and they have no chemistry whatsoever on that deep ball. It's like kind of honestly impressive how bad they are at the deep ball at this point in the season. So I think obviously the move this week is to target Worthy less, especially target him less downfield. I mean, you can hit him on the intermediate stuff. I feel like that's still money for us, but if you're going to go downfield a little bit, why don't you throw up some jump balls to Whittington? I mean, Jordan Whittington is a guy that, regardless if it's downfield or not, he needs to get a lot of these targets that Xavier Worthy's getting because Whittington was the only one that was playing winning football on offense Saturday, as Steve Sarkisian said in his press conference. So that's a senior guy that he's finally healthy and he wants to win. I mean, he's a leader out there and he played his heart out. He was the one guy on offense. So I want to see more Whittington involved this week against Kansas. Quinn Ewers, uh, I I don't know what to say about Quinn Ewers. People describe him as like even keeled, and he's just like makes it look so easy because he's like laid back there. But it's kind of hurting him now because he's late on
Yeah.
passes. He doesn't rifle balls in there. It's always like even if a guy's wide open, it barely gets there before the defense gets there. He's way too lackadaisical with his footwork, his passes. Like he needs to put. I know he's got a rocket of an arm. He needs to put his body into some of these throws and not just glide them through the air like he always seems to do, which look pretty when they're wide open, but you have to rifle it in a lot of the time to get the offense in rhythm and give your receiver a chance to make the catch and make a play with the ball. I feel like if we had good quarterback play against TCU, we would have won that game pretty easily. Um, a lot of the issues were with Quinn Ewers not being able to get the offense in a rhythm, getting drives going. But Sark wouldn't help him either. Sark needs to really identify ways to help a young quarterback out that's struggling. Give him easy passes. Trevor and I have been begging to throw it to Bijan out of the backfield, and we just don't do that. Like literally, that's just an easy pass, and to like the best player in the country, just get him the open field. It's not that hard. So just the offense was really disappointing. I mean, 0 points. I mean, three, I guess, but we couldn't punch it in the end zone. And defense showed up, and obviously we'll get into that in a minute. But let me hand it back to you, Trevor, for a second. But yeah, that was very unwatchable. That was Charlie Strong brain damage level football that I watched on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. To be fully transparent, I told Myers this at the beginning of the show, and he said I should share it, but this was like the perfect game to like just watch at a tailgate in like a social setting because that's what I did. And I thought going into the game, I'm like, oh man, like this is gonna be fun, but at the same time, like, am I actually gonna be able to really watch the game? Because you're around drinks and people and talking and all the kinds of activity. And it was actually the perfect game to do that because I would occasionally check in and it was like, oh, like we still haven't scored, you know? So perfect game for that. But upon rewatching things and kind of analyzing a little bit more, yeah, it was very disappointing on the offensive side of the ball. We've lost the ability to run, as you said, Myers. And not even that we lost the ability, but we're kind of not even trying to run, which is dumb because that puts your offense in a box. And the fact that we continue to rely on the deep ball. That is like the bread and butter of the offense now, even though it doesn't work like ever. So like why it's extremely puzzling that, Sark is so reliant on a skill set that does not work. Like they just don't connect on the deep ball. I feel like any, coach that values adjustments and actually winning and playing to win um would see that and be like, oh, that's not working tonight. Let's try XYZ. Let's see, like, I feel not to go on a tangent here, but honestly, like when you look back at the past few years of Texas football, I feel like if we just had a coach, not calling out Sark or anything, not saying that he's not the right guy, but if we just had a coach that just looked at the players and be like, oh, you do this really well. Let's do this. Like going back to Herman, going back to Strong, maybe even the end of the Mac days. I mean, our we have talented, supremely talented players that can do amazing things. And you would think it's so easy, but just if we just looked at our players and be like, oh, this puts them in the best position to succeed. Let me cater an offense around this player, this player, this player, get them involved this way, get the quarterback throwing this type of ball. And maybe occasionally take the deep ball to keep the defense honest. I think you'd have winning football, but I'm not getting paid millions of dollars to be the head coach. So yeah, those are just my thoughts, but yeah, just a very deep, disappointing offensive showing, especially on national TV. Like that's just you just can't do that, especially like I mean, and we'll get into the defense. Defense was fantastic. That's something to celebrate for sure. But even then, like to me, maybe if like this is going to sound very weird coming out of my mouth here, but I feel like it almost be less embarrassing that if our defense did poorly and we were just poor overall as a team, because it'd be like, oh, the whole team wasn't ready. But Sark is the offensive guy. Like he runs the offense. The fact that his side of the ball was completely night and day, not ready compared to the defensive side of the ball that's been struggling in some regards. Doing better this season, but not great. They were great, for the game, but the fact that on a national audience, you're the offensive guru, you're the future of the program in terms of the coach. You're everything runs through you, and your side of the ball was grossly incompetent compared to the defensive side of the ball, which gets a lot of crap. I think looks really bad, you know. And if the defense came out poo poo too, it'd be like, oh well, the whole team, it'd be on Sark still. But the fact that it was two totally different teams, offense and defense. Like there was a different persona. The defense was playing fast, physical, passion. Perfect, really. I mean, not perfect. There were plays that they messed up on, and again, we're gonna get into that in a sec. But yeah, puzzling, embarrassing, something that needs to be fixed. But honestly, I don't think it will because Sark in his press conferences doesn't even really acknowledge that there's an issue at hand. I mean, he does. Um, I don't think he's going to change it though at this point. I mean, we only got 2 games left in the regular season, and he seems to blame the receivers more than Quinn Ewers on some of these passes. And honestly, I feel like the blame's got to go to yourself and be like, I'm being dumb here. Our quarterback can't, or receiver, whoever it is, they're not connecting. Let me adjust. And he's refusing to adjust. And I got to be honest, it's concerning. It's very concerning. Because you should be able to figure this out by now. And I know, one more season or next season, maybe things change, but I don't know. It's an incredibly concerning telling sign, in my opinion. Not to give the doomsday scenario here, but I don't know. I feel very unsettled.
Yeah, he struggles immensely when the defense hasn't figured out and he has to adjust on the fly.
Yeah.
And usually that kind of happens in the second half after the script and the defense adjusts. But TCU came in like ready for our game plan. They had us shut down from the beginning, and Sark just was scrambling. He couldn't. We would have a couple good runs, then he would just start throwing bombs. I don't know why. We would just abandon that when we had momentum, or we were driving down into the red zone, then he would just abandon what was working. And it's like he just can't really adjust or feel the game out. He needs
No.
to like he's which is hard. I know he's head coach too, and like adjusting on the fly offense as an offensive coordinator is a lot on his plate, but he's got to improve in that for
He's got a
sure.
staff. I mean, you got
Yeah.
eyes in the sky and everything. Like, there's really no excuse, honestly. I mean, I know that, he hasn't been a head coach in a while and XYZ, but like, again, you're almost done with the season and you're not correcting what's wrong. It's not like this is a new issue either. Like, this has been an issue since, I mean, really all season, let's be honest. I mean, there's been some games that have been great all around. But even then, it's been a major concern. And the fact that it doesn't seem to be getting addressed is, again, I think is extremely concerning as a fan.
Yeah, two more things I want to say on the offense before I go over to the defense. Quinn Ewers, we say his footwork's bad. His vision's really bad. He struggles going through reads, which is hard as a quarterback. He struggles finding the open guy because a lot of these plays, there's people schemed open by Sark, and Quinn can't find him. So uh, I don't know if that's like Sark's offense needs a quarterback that can see the entire field. It's not a one read type offense, but that's concerning. So hopefully Quinn can get better at that, but it's kind of one of those things that you're born with. I feel like the ability to read defenses, and go through progressions while under pressure. So that's concerning. And then one last thing I'll say about the game against TCU offensively was the five wide was working. Whenever we'd go five wide, no one in the backfield. I know we wanted to run the ball, but once that was abandoned in the second half, the five wide, the quick game, that was we had their defense in fits. We were moving the ball quickly, getting downfield, and then we would just go away from it. So things like that really make me mad. But hopefully we bounce back. Hopefully it was an anomaly, but this offense leaves so much meat on the bone. This whole team does, honestly, but especially the offense. Every week it seems like it's like we trip over ourselves. We have all these great players, but we just can't put it all together for four quarters ever, which is so annoying. Defensively, let me give all these guys their flowers. All right, let's go down the line. Ryan Watts, dog. Baron Sorrell, dog. Keandre Coburn, dog. Moro Ojimo, dog. Jalen Ford, dog. Anthony Cook, dog. Terrence Brooks, dog. All these players played so great on
Did you say
Saturday. They
Jade
were hitting.
Barron?
They kept us in that game. They were begging. Oh my, super dog. J.Day Barron, super dog. That was
Yeah.
that guy's insane. That's DBU right there. That's the best DB I've seen.
Yeah.
That's the best performance I've seen from a Texas DB since the Mac days, honestly. So, wow. I mean, I did not expect that. Gary Patterson and PK had them ready to play. They had Max Duggan like figured out. There was nothing there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the one bad play was the breakdown in the end zone where Jaron Thompson followed the wrong guy and Quentin Johnson was wide open over the top. But I mean, like who cares? They played so good. They gave us literally every chance to win that game against the best offense in the Big 12. And so round of applause for the defense. I mean, just keep doing that, and hopefully the offense wakes up. I don't really have much more to say besides just shouting them all out. No complaints. I just hope we can keep this type of level of play going forward against Kansas and Baylor because we're going to need it if our offense is continuing to piss in the wind.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thoughts. I mean, just excellent all around. Um, I don't know if we talked about it so much on the show last week, but I know it's been on the back of everyone's mind. And yes, PK needs his flowers too. But the whole Gary Patterson thing about like, oh, I bet they're planning. Wonder if Gary's been studying extra film against his former team. Like, again, I don't, it's hard to really give credit to those guys because I don't know who, like, is it collective? Is it not? Like, who's the difference maker? I don't know. Both of them deserve credit, PK and Gary, but they were clearly very prepared for this game on the defensive side of the ball. knew exactly what TCU was going to be doing. They put so I've never seen us contain Max Duggan ever that well. We should regularly because he's talented, but he's not like Kyler Murray or anything, even though he looks like that typically most years against us. But I mean, we had them figured out, which again, going back to my last comment, it doesn't make sense to me that the defense played that well in our on our offense, which is our calling card, played so piss poor. It's the biggest question mark in a game that I've really witnessed, maybe ever. Like honestly, can you think of a time where I mean, we've seen plenty of games where it's like, oh, offense played great and the defense played, piss poor. But the fact that it's the opposite, and we're dealing with a coach like Sark, an offensive mind that runs this, yeah, it just doesn't add up, honestly. But great to see, and at least it kept us in the game, and I don't know, maybe that speaks to some defensive recruits. Anthony Hill was there along with many others, and um, I mean that can certainly help. I feel like on the defensive side of the ball, which is key because we're going to lose a lot of those guys on defense. Unfortunately, there'll be some guys, Baron Sorrell, Jade Barron, they'll be back, but we're going to need to get a lot of good recruits in on the defensive side of the ball. That's been a struggle of ours for a while. So hopefully that game serves as kind of a a calling to, recruits and transfers going into next season. I think a lot of people hopefully will watch this film and get excited and hopefully keep, I mean, I don't know about Gary, but at least keep PK around on the defensive coordinator position because stability is something that we always talk about on this show, and I feel like true Texas fans actually acknowledge the importance of stability as long as it's good. And yeah, I'm glad that the defense has taken good steps this season, especially in this game and other big games. Alabama, Oklahoma, both of those had incredibly impressive defensive standings. So that's good. We need to build the defensive side of the ball, and another big game where they just balled out.
Absolutely. Anything else on TCU, or do you want to move forward to Kansas?
Uh, a few questionable calls by the refs, but again, we've talked about this. Like, guys, we're quit bitching about a punter falling down. Like, I don't even think that was that big of a flop. I got to be honest, kind of a hot take. I mean, his legs did get kind of kicked out from under him, but um, you got to be ready. Like Myers and I said, you got to score an extra touchdown to account for some weird stuff by the refs. It's just going to happen. So that's
Yeah.
really my only thought on that. But for those fans that are, still upset about certain calls, I'm like, we're not immune to this. Like, this is the story of the season, and it's going to keep happening. Kansas, maybe. Baylor, probably. And if we so happen to make the Big 12 championship, there will be some road calls. So, like, just again, stay used to it, be used to it, expect it. But yeah, there were certainly a few calls where wasn't very favorable to Texas. I will say that.
Yeah, the one where Jared Wiley held, I forget who it was, like really like egregiously that he was laughing as he walked
They
off the
got like
sideline after the
no
play for
holding
not being
calls.
called. Yeah, that
TCU
was,
got nothing
I know. And then
holding.
the touchdown run, there was like two of them. And I didn't even want to bring it up, but you brought it up, Trevor, because I know we're gonna
Yeah,
have two like random Longhorn fans in the comments saying, or like haters, like blaming the refs. Literally, we're not blaming the refs. We should have lost
just
even if those calls didn't happen. We're just
acknowledging,
saying, we're just kind of just bringing up the point that our players need to
be
understand
ready for
that.
that.
Yeah. So, and yeah, like you said, if we go to the Big 12 title somehow against TCU and they're knocking on the door of the CFP, it's going to be like
Oh God, yeah.
unreal. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully it's not too bad against Kansas because Kansas has nothing to play for now. But
Right.
right, so
Yeah.
so
Let's
on to the
transition.
Jayhawks. On to the
Yeah.
Jayhawks.
Yeah. Myers, do you have a scouting report of the Jayhawks?
I was watching a little bit of film on the Jayhawks, not too much honestly, but They're 6-4, seventh in the Big 12, so they've kind of regressed since their hot start, mainly because Jalen Daniels went down. But or I don't know if it's Jalen or Jaden. I forget. There's too many of them in college
Yeah.
football. I get them confused. But um, Jason Bean has been stepping in real nice and doing well. And I think they're gonna throw out Daniels against us Saturday because
Hmm.
why would they not against Texas? I mean, I think he's gonna be just healthy, just in time for Texas. So that's a whole new dynamic because he's a great runner, and they also have Devin Neal in the backfield, who's a great running back. So they're more of an offensive team. Their defense is by means nothing special. I mean, they by no means. I mean, they give up like 30 a game. They have a couple good players like Kenny Logan, but I mean, I was saying this against TCU. Our offense should be able to score on Kansas. So um, I don't know if we will or not. If Sark keeps on, I don't know what he's doing these days, but if Sark keeps messing around, we might not be able to. The thing that concerns me about this game is the weather. It's going to be 27, 28 degrees in the
Oh,
second half, Fahrenheit. So
oh, we
uh,
not used to that.
yeah, I can just see.
Quinn ain't used to that.
So it's going to be hard to. Yeah, the passing game already struggles as it is. I can't imagine
Yeah.
Quinn throwing dimes in that kind of weather, in those conditions. So that's going to be something to watch. So definitely want to maybe run the ball this game a lot. But uh, yeah, I mean, Lance Leopold's done a great job at Kansas. I mean, it's to the point now where we don't want to lose to Kansas. Obviously, we need to beat Kansas just for the meme sake, but it's less of a meme now. They're actually a legitimate Big 12 program. So they lost to Texas Tech last week in Lubbock. So I'm sure that they'll be fired up. We have to play Texas at home now and bounce back. But yeah, that's about it on the Jayhawks. 6-4, and we're favored by 9, which is kind of
Yeah.
incredible. I don't know why they do this to us every week. I don't understand it.
No, no, especially on the road. And like, we haven't, well, we did win on the road against Kansas State, but yeah, it's been a struggle every road game. And I don't know. They continue to be so high on Texas. I mean, we're still ranked number 18 even after a loss to TCU. And again, maybe that's more of the playoff committee really liking TCU as a team, which I mean, they're undefeated, I guess, so they deserve some credit, but I don't know if I
I think
buy that TCU's that great.
the new rankings just came out like an hour ago, and we're unranked now. So they
Wait,
took
what?
forever to come out. It's
Really?
the new CFP. Yeah, it just hadn't updated yet, so we're
Breaking
unranked.
news.
Thank God,
Are
because
we
that would have been a
actually?
joke if we were ranked.
Let me refresh. Oh, no, yeah, you're right. Wow. Still a 9 point spread, though. Hmm. All right. Well,
I don't know like anyone in the world that would be look at that spread of that and be like, yeah, I'm gonna take Texas -9 to cover that. Like
right.
what?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Um, how about I guess we can go into keys to the game then, unless there's any other points, maybe regarding Texas before we go into keys to the game that we feel is important to discuss.
Just I would just say like it'd be nice to get Deshaun Jameson back. I'm sure he will be back with the concussion because Terrence Brooks played well last week, but you don't want to have that freshman corner out there on
Not
an
on the
island
road.
on the road, yeah, especially in those conditions. So you want that veteran there. Um, and just I think this is the point of the year where you just spam Jordan Whittington, spam Roshan Johnson, spam all the veterans that have been in the program. Give them their opportunity to make plays because I feel like they're the ones that want it the most right now. So definitely run the offense through them, maybe less through Worthy, less through the younger guys. Try to rely on the older people, and hopefully Quinn shows up. I mean, here's my key to the game, and Trevor and I were talking about this. You got to find a way to get Quinn Ewers in a rhythm, and if that's just little quick screen passes the first drive, or little slants the first drive, just easy passes that anybody could make. Just get them comfortable back there. No long bombs, please, please. Don't let him throw maybe in the second half if he's cooking, but even then, probably not. And just keep going to Whittington, keep going to Jatavion Sanders, who played well against TCU. He's one guy I didn't mention, but those are my keys to the game. Just get Quinn Ewers. Just make it as a pro Quinn Ewers offense as you possibly can, Steve Sarkisian. That's what I'm asking for you to do. So just put on the training wheels for him and let him just go play a nice, easy game where it feels like 7-on-7. It's just so quick. It's just catch the ball, throw it here, catch the ball, throw it here. It's just easy. There's nothing, there's no thinking to it. Just let him get in his rhythm, and then hopefully it'll all start coming together for Quinn.
I like it. Uh, to add on to that, key to the game would be run the ball. Again, didn't really do that against TCU, but we should be able to do this against Kansas. Like, absolutely. And control clock, dealing with cold weather. It's a little bit easier to run. Um, Bijan should be fresh because we didn't really use them. So same with Roshan too. I really didn't get many touches. Not was Keelan even involved? Like our running game should be totally fresh. I mean, the offensive line certainly had, bring some concerns, but again, let's reestablish a rhythm, get the running game going. That was kind of our approach, second half against Kansas State, and or I mean, really, a lot of the Kansas State game was very run heavy, and again, dealing with kind of similar colder weather, on the road. Um, Hopefully Sark, you know, acknowledges that. And I want to say that, maybe with the past home game against TCU, he figured that that was a good game to really air the ball out. But the previous game, like against Kansas State, his philosophy being that it was a road game was run. So hoping, and I think this is a key to the game, that we run the ball while on the road against a Kansas team, especially with dealing with cold weather and probably wind. It's Kansas. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely run first to set up the pass. Absolutely. We didn't do that against TCU very much, so
No,
would love to see that, especially with the conditions.
not at all.
Predictions, I'll go real quick. I'll go real quick.
Okay.
So I don't expect Texas to win this game. I don't trust this team. Um, quite frankly, I feel like it's just last year's team, honestly, at this point. We're just a little better on defense, a little more scrappy here and there. A little more physical, but same tendencies. I think this is the type of game we lose on the road in freezing weather. I'm sure it'll be a sellout. It always is for Texas. So I'm going to go 34-27, and I think our defense kind of takes a step back this week. I mean, it'll be hard not to for how well they played last week. So, and I think our offense still struggles. So I think we keep it close, but we lose a close one, 34-27.
All right. Can you read off Madrid and Thomas's real quick? I'm gonna adjust my score actually because I don't know. I've thought about things a little bit differently.
Yeah. So Matt Madrid's not here tonight, obviously, and he texted us his score. He's actually taken the Horns to win 35-17. So he called the TCU loss last week. He thought we would lose pretty badly, and he was right. So he's saying we win big this week, 35-17. That'd be huge. And then Thomas also has the Horns winning, which is surprising to me. Uh, so 28-14, Texas is his prediction. So they're both picking Texas, which is honestly shocking. But man, I would love that.
Yeah, and Myers, I'm actually gonna side with you and go with the loss. So I think we're in trouble because I feel like you and I are always the optimistic ones and they're the pessimistic ones. And I feel like when Myers predicts, I mean Madrid picks, the opposing team, Texas wins. So I don't know. I'm not feeling good now, but I agree. I just game on the road, and I don't know. I'm just not feeling too great about the team. It'd be nice to see us win and have some leadership step up and get us back in the right direction. But yeah, I got a very similar score line, 31-24 Kansas, with the Jayhawks kind of controlling the game, and we're able to put up a few points, but not enough. And I'm sure there will be some key mistakes and kind of the same old stuff. So hoping that's not the case. I could see us winning for sure, but I don't know. I don't typically predict Texas to lose. I feel like I probably should a little bit more. I don't think I have since Alabama. So um, this one I will be giving a loss and hoping that it's a reverse jinx. Knock on wood. Anything else, Myers, or you think we're good to wrap this bad boy up and put it in early a little tonight?
I will say though, if we do pull out the win, if Thomas and Madrid are right, and we're sitting at 7-4, and Kansas State's playing in Morgantown, and if it's cold in Kansas, I'm sure it's going to be like really cold in Morgantown. So they won against Oklahoma last week, the Mountaineers did. So maybe they'll pull off some more magic and beat Kansas State at home. And if they
Right.
do that, and then Texas wins on Saturday, we have a date with Baylor and DKR for a trip to the Big 12 titles. So as bad as it's been the last week, there's still a chance for Texas to backdoor our way into the Big 12 title and get a rematch with TCU, which I know that Quinn Ewers and Sark would love after just embarrassing themselves on Saturday. So
Hmm.
fingers crossed that Texas wins on Saturday, and also let's go Mountaineers.
Yes, let's support them for the week. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Appreciate it. Hopefully Texas can get the win on the road in Lawrence. Be good to avenge that loss. I know the revenge tour is kind of dead, but you could get part of it taken care of with a win on the road against Kansas. So thank y'all for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. Horns up. Let's get a win, and hopefully Myers and I are wrong this time.